Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am creating a layout for the Cybercrop for May over at Mystical Scrapbooks. The theme is 123 and this challenge is to use one piece of chipboard, 2 photos and 3 words in your title. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to try and use some of this chipboard from Memory Maze Junkie Frames and Arrows, and I'm going to use the Colour Blast papers, some papers from limited edition and some from Love and Grace. And as one of the requirements is 2 photos, I've chosen 2 photos that were taken the night that we celebrated my husband's 60th birthday. So I've decided to start with this Love and Grace paper called Portia, and I'm tearing a piece of it that's approximately 10 inches wide. So I'm tearing a short piece off of this end and then I'll tear it again at about 10 inches. I will build this back up to 12 inches square using a couple of strips of other pattern paper. I'm going to try for a darker pattern for the top and bottom of this. Now I'm going to modify this piece of cardstock, and I'm going to start by using this Dusty Attic stencil called Crisscross and my modelling paste, and I'm going to apply some of that paste through the stencil just randomly in a few spots on the background. I let that dry and then I'm going to add some colour. So I'm using Tattered Angel's chalkboard spray. This colour is called Teal High Heel. I'm going to spray that in a couple of areas on my background, then use my water spray bottle to water that down and let that run down my page. Then while that's still wet, I'm going to take my Do Craft Artiste Spritzing ink. This one is called Mint, and I'm going to spray a bit of that over the top of the blue just to give my colour a bit more depth. While that's drying, I'm going to cut 2 2-inch strips of this Real Deal from the limited edition pattern range by Colour Blast. I'm going to use my distressing tool to distress around 3 edges, and then use my black Versacolour ink cube to ink around those edges that I've distressed. I'm going to do that on both pieces of this pattern paper. Once I've done that, I'm going to use an emery board to file around the outside edge of each of my photos, giving it that nice little fine white border. To add a little more interest to my background, I'm going to use that Do Craft Artiste Spritzing ink once again in the mint colour and add some splatters to the background. Then I'll do exactly the same thing using the Artiste Spritzing ink called Black Night to give a bit more depth or darkness to the background. Now I'm going to use double-sided tape to attach that piece of pattern paper that I've altered to the 2 strips of 2-inch paper that I've cut and distressed the edges of. I'm going to run a piece of double-sided tape the whole length or the whole width of the paper so that I get a good fix. And I will attach the top piece, and actually I should have used my scoreboard to do the top piece as well, but I forgot to do that, so it may not be exactly straight, but I bring in my scoreboard to attach the bottom piece so that I know that I'm going to get it exactly 12 inches. I can line it up and get it nice and straight and exactly at the 12-inch mark. I use liquid glue to attach this second piece, so it gives me a little bit more wriggle room, and I could make sure I get it nice and straight. I also used my StazOn jet black ink and a Kazaz stamp called Life's Moments Background to stamp randomly on the background as well, but I seem to have lost that piece of footage, so yeah, you won't be able to see me do that one. Time now to work on my chipboard. As I said, this comes from Memory Maze. I have used, well, I've coloured this previously for another project and only used half of the frame, so now I'm going to cover over that colour. I'm going to use that same black RT spritzing ink, the Black Knight, and just a brush and try and give it a fairly solid coverage, but it doesn't take fully, and I get a pretty good cover but not complete coverage. And then once I'm happy with that, I dry that off and then use my Glimmer Mist in iridescent gold to spray over the top of it so that it's got a two-tone look with a black and a gold. Then I set that aside to dry. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I go ahead and mat my photos on some plain black cardstock. I've only got a fine border around them, about a 1/8 inch border all the way around. I will put a link to all of the products that I'm using in the description box below, so if you wanted to have a look at anything that you might be interested in, you'll find the link. Otherwise, you've probably got something in your stash that you can use. I also went ahead and attached my chipboard frame to my layout using my liquid glue. I'm using art glitter glue. Time now to attach my photos to my layout, but before I did, I attached some scrap cardboard to the back of those photos, just where it wasn't going to be overlapping that chipboard. I wanted them to sit flat and a little higher, so that's my best way of doing that. I have done that on both photos, of course, and I'm using my art glitter glue once again to attach those. I find that the liquid glue works really well when you've got mixed media on your background and, you know, dimension like on chipboard and things like that. So that gives me my one piece of chipboard, 2 photos. Time now to work on my 3-word title, and for that I'm using my Kaisercraft alphabet uppercase dies and my dynamic high-rise number dies and some black cardstock to cut the title out. As I said, these photos were taken on my husband's 60th birthday, or well, not actually on the day, but when we were celebrating it. So that's what my title's going to be. Ray turned 60, so there's my 3 words. And I'm going to use my T-ruler and my art glitter glue along with my reverse tweezers, which are fantastic, to add my title and try and make it as straight as possible. I wanted to add a little bit of lightness to the background, so I've watered down some white acrylic paint and I'm going to use my fan brush to splatter white splatters on the background. You can see I've covered up the photos because I don't want to get splatters on the photos. So that's it for my layout for today. The link to the Cybercrop will be in the description box below, along with all the products I've used that I can find. I mean, a lot of these have been discontinued now, so they're fairly old. But thank you for watching my video today. If you're not already a subscriber, I'd love it if you would subscribe. And I hope that you can join me for my next video. Bye.